This is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast where we revisit sci-fi, fantasy, and just plain weird shows.
This week, Steel Justice.
I want to know what you've seen.
Well, I saw the last dragon slain in Britain. I saw Joan of Arc call out to God. I saw a Dutchman stare through a new glass at a German realize for the first time man could fight disease and win.
Come on.
I saw the comet they call Harry 14 times. I saw Lincoln cry. I saw the Wright brothers laugh. I've seen all this and more. But I've never seen a man who needed to heal himself as much as you do, David.
How do you know my name?
Because I'm your guide, David. And deep down you know that. Because the dreams have started, haven't they?
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast equivalent of a drive-by rocket-propelled grenade attack. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
I know you want me to answer what's real, but I actually had lots of questions about how this kid died.
Yeah, I like that you're going to just start with that.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what's going on.
Well, all you need to know about the kid is, 1, he loves a robot dinosaur, and 2, he died. That's all you're ever going to know about this kid.
All right, well, that's the podcast, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
That's it.
We have a guest here joining us this week. Ihor, how's it going?
Hey, not too bad. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on to join us for we watched this failed pilot TV movie for something called Steel Justice.
It's a really, really long movie. It's not like a normal pilot. This was about a 13-hour movie, wasn't it?
It's a good hour and a half. And while doing kind of the breakdown of it for the show, I was like, it seems like a lot happens, or it seems like there's a lot of scenes in it, but very little actually happens in the movie.
Yeah.
Till the last 10 minutes.
Before we get too far into it, though, I got to say, this was recommended by one of our listeners. At C Chupik on Twitter recommended this to us.
And that is my new arch enemy. My new arch enemy. I don't know. Is this a gentleman or a lady? We don't know.
It's a gentleman.
It's a gentleman. I'm going to start recommending things for him to watch and see how he likes it.
You didn't enjoy watching a show about Robosaurus?
Well, we'll get into this. It was something else.
All right. Have either of you heard of Steel Justice before?
No, not at all.
Did any of you know about Robosaurus before this?
I did know about Robosaurus. And honestly, when I started watching this, I thought this looks a lot like the robot that ate cars that I went to see when I was maybe like 8 years old. My grandfather took me and my brother to the Sky Dome at the time. Is it still the Sky Dome? Still the Sky Dome, or whatever it is. The Rogers Center now.
Sure, where the Blue Jays play.
Yeah, and it was like a car rally, and then the big finishing thing was this robot came out and ate cars.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I was like, this looks a lot like it. Then I realized halfway through, I'm like, it is that thing.
Yeah.
And it actually is.
That's it. This whole TV show is basically a starring vehicle for this robotic dinosaur that was in existence already. It wasn't created for the show. It was already touring, eating cars.
And I did a little bit of research on it. So it is officially called Robosaurus. Do you know how much it cost to make it?
No, go tell me.
Take a guess. How much do you think you were?
I thought it was a model, but then I looked closer and they actually made a life-size one, so I'm guessing it was a lot. Guess-wise, 50 grand.
50 grand. What do you think?
That's a low-end number.
I think it's $1 million.
You're both wrong. 2.2 million.
Really?
Wow.
It looks 40 feet tall.
Beautiful.
When it's fully extended, I don't know why they say that. When it's I know it's funny. When it's fully extended, it's 31 tons.
Wait, it wouldn't change how much it weighs.
I know, that's why I don't know why it mentioned that. Oh, 500 horsepower.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like when its little ears go up and down.
Yeah.
Do you know what it looked like to me? Did you ever watch
piece of crap?
Mystery Science Theater 3000?
I know Ihor does a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Its face looked like a Crow T robot from that show.
Yeah, it's actually...
His little beady eyes in the center.
Yeah, yeah. It was underwhelming, let's put it that way, for $2.2 million.
Imagine how much that made on the monster truck circuit, though.
But I was thinking, this is the first time I can think of a show that was sort of made about a product, but I don't know if you did a little research. I went and looked it up, and this is not the only time this has ever happened.
I mean, it's not even like it's a product. Like, this is not like the Geico lizard or the
Well, that
caveman
was-
got a show.
Right.
This is those are like, this is just it's like giving a monster truck a show.
Again, we'll get into this, but just as we talk about this was a pilot. Just try to think of what other episodes could you possibly have had where this robot keeps coming
We'll
out?
definitely run through it at the end. We'll try to make up some possible other
Yeah.
episodes for the show because
Well,
it's hard to imagine.
I know, right? Well, anyways, I guess we should get into it.
So if this was a pilot, I guess it didn't get picked up for anything afterwards. Eh?
No, I was.
do you remember watching episodes of this later on?
No, I did. I didn't even know this thing existed.
There's a. I don't know if you saw the comments on the YouTube video we watched. A lot of people in the comments are just like, "Came here from Cracked. Came here from Cracked." That's like almost all the comments.
Oh, really?
So I found the Cracked article about it, and they had not much is written about it. Even there in the articles, like can't find much about the show. What they did find apparently is when they released the show, and I think you can tell because if you listen to the score of this show, it sounds like when it got to that stage, they're like, "Don't put any more money into this movie."
Right.
It sounds like a xylophone was used. But when they released it, all the TV ads for it hid the fact that Robosaurus was in it. They didn't want anyone to tune in. They were hiding the core element of the show. They just made it look like kind of a romantic drama in the future because they were just like, "We're not making this. Nobody tune in. You're not even going to know Robosaurus is in it."
I think it seems like almost that sort of thing where they make a decision at the time of something that's really hot, but by the time it's filmed, no one wants it
Not
anymore.
so hot.
It's like Ninja Turtles 2 when Vanilla Ice was in it. It's like by the time that came out, I was like, no one wants Vanilla Ice anymore. What are you guys thinking?
I actually think this movie probably would have been better without Robosaurus in its entirety. Like the story itself actually wasn't that bad, and there's a lot of kind of good stuff about it. I think Robosaurus just kind of brought
I'm just saying, I get what you're saying, but if they didn't do it, I'd be like, what was I just watching? Just a guy wandering around?
Well,
no
time
end?
traveling. Yeah.
Let me ask you a quick thing. The co-writer and director of this had one other movie he'd written produced in 1992. Do you want to make a guess as to what that might be?
I think I know this one because I looked this up. Is it
All right.
Last of the Mohicans?
Is Last of the Mohicans.
What?
Yeah,
Same year, 1992, he had this and Last of the Mohicans.
Oh, that is the same year though, eh? He made the same
1992.
Really? Oh, yeah, that's right. That movie came
So,
out.
and that's the only, that was just a really good year or he did one and was like, they're like, this guy's a hot new thing. And then he made Robosaurus and it was like, no, your career's done.
I have no idea. It just was such a strange collision of like two products that couldn't be further apart from each
Which
other.
one's first?
You know what? I'm not sure. Probably
It's a classic chicken or egg.
Yeah.
Mohicans probably would have taken longer to produce and make, whereas this clearly was rushed through production.
2 week
He
process.
did it on the weekend.
Yeah.
I'm sure he had written that. They were putting into production like he's probably a hot new screenwriter. Someone like brought him. He's like, I want to direct this. I've got a great idea. And there's a certain amount of care and I think a little bit of self-awareness to the script, but it doesn't really work. All right, we'll get into this in a second, but before we do, as I always do, I like to look back at what happened when the show came out. What was happening when the show came out? This time, I'm not going to go into any historical events, Jordan.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you one thing about what happened
In 1992?
on April 5th, 1992, when this show came out.
Okay.
The lead-in to the movie Steel Justice was the pilot for Man and Machine.
Oh, no. Was it really?
The lead-in. So Man and Machine aired for an hour, the pilot, and then this.
So let me just say, some poor son of a bitch who something happened, they had a stroke or something and they couldn't get up and they had to watch a whole episode of Man and Machine. It was probably that Frankenstein episode.
It was the first episode. It was the pilot.
Oh, it was the pilot. You're right. And which is also not good. And then they had to watch this. Like that would have done it. That'd have been the end. They would have just used the last force they had to twist their neck and kill
It's
themselves.
a marathon.
Yeah.
All right, let's actually get into it, you guys. Here is the IMDb summary for Steel Justice. David Nash has lost his son and his will to live. But the boy appears in his dreams, as well as his Robosaurus toy.
As well as a narrator.
A mythical figure will help Nash to turn Robosaurus into a real creature in order to avenge his son's death. That was courtesy of Thomas.
That's a pretty accurate synopsis. Also, it really makes you think that this is a succinct plot, which it's not at all. Because he left out the 85 other plot lines that aren't needed in this.
Or as Ihor said, all the VO.
Yeah, right. Yeah, which is also not consistent. Can we talk about that now? Like it starts right off the beginning with voiceover, and it comes back maybe 3 or 4 times, like in a real heavy-handed sort of, almost kind of like Philip Marlowe, a kind of like style.
It's very pulpy. They're aiming for a certain level of like pulp detective.
It almost had that beginning was like a film noir feel to it, the way he narrated it and gave you the sort of synopsis of where it's going.
Yeah, we kind of opened on like opening credits with like a swirling vortex and old maps, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. There's kind of
Was it a map of monsters at one point?
yeah, it was like an old timey like New World map
Yeah,
with
yeah.
like sea monsters.
He's a time traveler.
Well, that's what they say. The VO at the beginning is, I've got it all written down here, so I'm gonna go through all. That's not true. I got the best part. Since the world began, time travelers have traveled across the globe on a pilgrimage, a quest to locate and nurture those with a gift. They're referring to, of course, Jeremiah J. Jonas.
Triple J.
Who we don't get his name for about it's 3 hours, right? Until we find out what his name is.
It takes a very long time to get to his name.
And what do they refer to him before you get his name for most of the time?
Oh, I didn't notice. I just called him Dream Man.
You know what Nash calls him? That black guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he calls him that black guy at least 5 times.
It was mentioned,
yeah,
several times
He's
in
like,
the beginning.
and there's that black guy over there. I'm like, just give him a name.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
92.
it's pretty bad. I
different
would say their characterization of black people in the show is
It's not
bad.
good.
There's 2 other ones. One talks jive
Yep.
from the 70s. The other one talks like straight, like what a 90s screenwriter thinks a black person talks like. But it's so bizarre because like they're very different. Like they're very different stereotypes that he just saddles the only 2 black characters with.
I'm gonna defend the screenwriter because I think he was spending a lot of his time trying to get the indigenous stuff right for Last of the Mohicans.
I know. This man knows races very well.
Right? Yeah.
It's cultures are his thing.
Don't get me started on Gomez.
Oh yeah, Arturo Gomez.
Yeah, Arturo Gomez.
It's crazy. But let's go and quickly get into Jeremiah J. Jonas, who's apparently a time traveler who helps people discover their gift. Except he was born in Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
He's 2,356 years old. Is he a time traveler, or does he travel through time in that he moves forward like everybody else?
Well, okay. I don't think it's clear, so we can talk about it. I thought when he was saying he was 2,000 years old, he just every time he like goes into the future, he's like, "What year is it? I'm about 2,000 now," and then he goes like, "Do you know what I mean?" Like it's like if he went back 2,000 years old, he'd be like, "I'm 3."
Right, but he said he was born in Mesopotamia.
Yeah. But I think time doesn't affect him the same as anyone else because he's in.
So you think he might actually be a time traveler?
I think he's actually a time traveler, but I also think he might also have Batman's powers because he just like disappears and
Reappears out of prison.
yeah.
And
with that cool like earring that hangs from one ear, like he's Mr. T.
what gift does he teach the people who have it how to use?
Well, that's the silly thing. I don't understand why, of all the things that he could teach, knowing what he knows, traveling through time, it's the ability to make objects big, which is what all it was. So I don't know what he's trying to transmit to the future.
This is the gift that only certain people have is transformation or just making something bigger
Enlargement.
than it was. We see a few flashbacks of it. What are 2 things we know for sure he helped make big?
The Trojan horse.
Yep.
Stonehenge.
Yep. Both of those things.
Yeah.
For some reason.
But I just like how they showed it. He just came into like he's with he's back in ancient times and he's like a wooden horse, huh? Pretty good.
Little tiny one in his hand, and
Yeah.
the next thing you know, this is a really big one.
Well, I thought at first it was just that he was giving them like he was the impetus to an idea. Like, isn't that a cool idea? And they're like, what if we built a bigger one? I didn't know until later on that the idea was no. He's literally like, what if you made that thing bigger? Like actually physically, you make it bigger.
Your psychic power, the only one that exists among humanity, is to just look at something small and imagine it very big.
And enlarge it.
Yeah.
Well, when they started it, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I guess this is, wonder what the reason is. And then when I saw Robosaurus, I was like, oh, that's where it's going. The robot's going to get big. Oh, and that kind of was like a little bit deflating.
Oh, that's
but
right.
I figured it out.
Both of you 2 went in completely blind.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was
knew
getting into.
Robosaurus was going to be in it before I started, but I was just like, man, oh man, those 2 guys are going to be like, what am I watching?
They're in for a treat.
At one point, I was disappointed because I thought where it was going was that he was going to turn into Robosaurus in like a RoboCop type thing, and like he'd have like a suit and he'd look like that.
That's what I kind of thought too. I didn't actually.
I was
think-
actually disappointed that it ended up just being like
He didn't even remote control him.
No, that's what I mean.
He's just like a Robosaurus.
As far as J Jonas goes, we know he's a time traveler. We know he can help people who have the ability to make things big. Why can he enter people's dreams? Is he a Freddy Krueger?
Again, for something that is as long as it is and as many scenes as there are, they don't explain any of the world building that, because this is a little bit RoboCop, it's a little bit Blade Runner, and it's a little bit Highlander weirdly, and also I would say a lot Predator 2. which is not the Predator that everyone likes. But it's a weird. They don't explain that. They don't explain.
How Predator 2?
Well,
in
it
a
just-
future city.
It's in the future city, and I think in Predator 2, and someone can write me in to explain that I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're dealing with heat issues too.
Yeah, well, they look
Crime.
into it. Because his news protege is this hard-boiled detective, David Nash. He lives in a future where the ozone has decayed. The environmentalists were right, he says. And now the only thing we know about this future is it's very hot.
I kind of like that. I like the idea that okay, we're dealing with the repercussions of living in a bad environmental way, but they don't really sell it like actually visually. Like everyone should just be looking like they're hot. Like the guys from Planet of the Apes are constantly sweating. It looks hot there. On this, they're all still wearing trench coats and stuff. I'm like, doesn't look hot.
What else about the future? What about the cars of the future?
Yeah, they're old. Why were they old?
They're all from the 40s through the 60s.
Why is that?
I have no idea.
Stylistic choice.
Yeah.
All the cities are overcrowded because
Oh yeah, I wrote that down. I know it has to do with immigration.
Immigration.
What was it?
it was the Central Asian War of the late 90s.
Yeah, that's
Right,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
So we know this is post 2000 sometime. And as there are in all future metropolises, there's just TVs everywhere. I wrote down 3 of the commercials we got to hear as we went through the world. A truck drives by and tries to sell you Meadospheres.
What were those?
They help you relax by going into your pleasure centers. They're
Pleasure center.
Up your butt.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
You're saying that they're just little spheres you put
Yeah.
up your butt?
Yeah, exactly.
They're enemas.
We've got those already.
Yeah. Well, they just changed the name to Pleasure.
We've got
Pleasure
much better
Spheres.
advertising.
Yeah.
Better marketing.
Yeah. These things aren't selling. I said call them Pleasure Spares.
On the street in front of his apartment are like, and you have to keep in mind, these TVs aren't just like a big like LCD bank or screen. It is like 50 CRTC screens like stacked on top of each other.
Which is, I guess, when you look at movies from the 90s, I guess that's how they envisioned giant screens of the future, like multiple little screens making up one bigger screen. They didn't think we would ever actually.
A house where you're going
invent-
to pull it off.
Yeah, how are we going to invent like a large screen, right?
The one in front of his house is advertising The Rapture.
Yeah.
They don't really-
like the
You
Rapture?
watch this with such meticulous attention to detail.
They
I'm
don't
impressed.
ever explain what The Rapture is. It's somewhere between like something sexy or possibly a cult. It's unclear.
Or do you think it was the Rapture?
like the
Yeah,
actual
that's what I'm
biblical
wondering. That's
rapture.
what- maybe it's just like good advertising for The Rapture. My favorite one though is when they go to the courthouse. There's a TV screen advertising Your Rights.
Oh, that's right.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Very useful.
If you're arrested for peddling arms.
Nash is out here. He's been on he's on a stakeout at the end of a 6-month investigation into Arturo Gomez. There are gangs in this world, and they're all either Latino or black because
It's 1992.
Because there's a lot of immigrants in the
Yeah.
futuristic
Well,
dystopian city.
I blame those Asian wars.
the South Asian
Doesn't
war.
make any- wouldn't most of the immigrants then be from South Asia?
No, you'd be wrong.
They're looking for him because he's a criminal who specializes in. Did you get his laundry list of what his crimes are?
No.
Drugs to children.
Yes.
Pornography.
Heavy duty street drugs to school children.
I thought you were going to say heavy duty pornography.
Heavy
I was like,
duty
what is
pornography.
that?
Yes,
It's a
pornography.
new genre.
Extortion.
Extortion and arms dealing.
Arms dealing.
Holy
and
moly.
I remember that. I don't know why. I
number one on
remember
the
that.
list. Human torment.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. What's the general sentence for human torment?
I don't know because this bust does not go well.
Yeah.
By the way, I recognize that guy from Killer Fish.
Arturo Gomez?
No, sorry. Oh, sorry. The guy, the boss guy. Never mind. I'm jumping.
Oh,
ahead here.
you meant,
That's the guy who specializes in torment. I'm confused.
Don't you wish you specialized in torment?
I wish.
I think I work with a few people who
Put
do
on your
that.
business card.
Yeah.
this bust of Arturo is they introduce like 5 different cops that are in on this bust with Nash. We'll never really learn anything about them. The one we kind of need to keep track of for the podcast is he has a partner who's actually kind of cool. She's like this tough talking woman we meet.
Really
very early
raspy
on.
voice.
Christina Morelli.
Christina Morelli.
Yeah.
Who she doesn't get much to do, but when I first met her, I'm like, this is all right. I can get into this character. There's something pulpy and fun here.
A weird question. I forgot to look it up for what's his name? Jimmy Nash.
David Nash.
David Nash.
Jimmy Nash.
Jimmy Nash is better.
It's a better name.
He every now and then it sounds like he either has a Boston accent or he's trying to do a Boston accent. But I forgot to look up if the actor's actually from Boston or if he was doing a thing like, wouldn't it be fun if I was from Boston? Did you look that up?
No, I didn't even catch it.
Anyways,
I think
I missed the accent. He was always muttering and kind of.
you were too busy googling the pleasure spheres, right?
In pleasure spheres.
I mean, maybe this is future Boston.
Maybe it's It never says
They never
where it is.
specify.
I'm looking it up.
They do this bust in an interesting way. They go to the door they think he's behind. They light a piece of paper on fire, drop it in front of the door, and then just start shouting, "Fire! Fire!"
I actually thought I missed something with that scene. I'm like, did I look away and miss something? But that's how they conducted their bust.
You blinked.
I blinked. I must have.
Did you see what this was the hotel they were in?
Yeah.
Did you see what the hotel was called?
No.
Hotel Beatrice. I don't know why I like that. I was like, that's a nice name
Nice
for a
name,
hotel.
hotel. What I liked is that
I'd stay there.
they drop it on the ground and they're like yelling fire to try to, I guess, lure him out. And what happens next is with a machine gun, he shoots the door to pieces, and all you hear from inside is like, "I heard him yell fire, so I fired." I was just like, whoa.
There's a lot of bad one-liners in this one.
That's a heck of a way to introduce Gomez here.
He's violent.
They end up in a rooftop chase, and we get a few shots of this machine gun he has. It's a very cool future machine gun, very big. It was called a Scorpion.
Yeah.
And my favorite part was the cops later complain about how the criminals are better equipped than them. Did you catch the name of the criminals they think?
Yeah, I have two of them, and one
There
of
are
them,
only two, they said.
Yeah, and there's one, Luke. I think we should start a gang just because his name is so good, or a band. So one was called the Bee Hoppers.
Yeah, Bee Hoppers.
And the one I really liked was the Cool Juice Runners.
Ah.
Isn't that good? The Cool Juice
That's
Runners.
not bad. That's not bad.
These criminals. What do you think a Cool Juice Runner does?
I'm assuming they were guessing like juice is some sort of drug.
Yeah, Cool Juice is a drug, and these guys run it.
He peddles it.
What about a Bee Hopper?
Bee hopper.
They just run a daycare.
An illegal daycare.
An illegal daycare that specializes in torture,
Torment. And pornography.
Oh jeez.
All right. Too far.
That is illegal.
Whoops.
Yeah, they have this David gets on the rooftop chase with Gomez. It goes on for a little while, but in the end, does Gomez clothesline himself?
So they end the fight by Gomez is running, and for some reason there's actually a
wire.
literal wire or
Clothesline across the roof
that he just chokes himself,
runs
knocks himself
into.
down, and they're like, chase over. I'm like, why did we watch a 5-minute chase? That's how it ended.
Clumsy.
Well, Nash got to do that cool jump between buildings where I kind of liked it actually.
But he doesn't make the jump.
He doesn't make the jump, but he just ends up going through a window on the floor below. I actually kind of liked that. I'm like,
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Why did Gomez make the jump and he couldn't?
He had a ladder stretched across the alleyway that he
that's-
crawled, and then he took the ladder down.
And the reason all of us are having trouble knowing what happened is one, it's really bad, and also it could not be darker.
I was gonna make a comment on that. It's the dark. It needs to be lit up, and
Yeah.
I don't mean with fire.
have a
I just
feeling
mean like
it was a way
was-
to cover things.
I think our YouTube quality was like 7 pixels.
it's a 10-year-old video. Like
10-year-old. It's like
it's from 2010. I think somebody uploaded.
Oh,
it,
I thought you
or
meant the
9-year-old.
actual show.
Oh no, yeah. The
anyways,
upload.
it looked bad.
it was definitely dark, and the YouTube quality was not very forgiving, so it was a little tough to follow everything. But I think we got most of it.
My contrast was on max the whole time.
At any rate, they managed to arrest him and take in Gomez, but almost immediately he's walked at the court because of just such bad police work. I like the DA comes out. He's just like, "You guys, you can't light a piece of paper on fire and yell fire to arrest a guy." Like
You
that's,
gotta do it by the book.
I know, and they're like, come on.
So they let this illegal arms dealer go on a
Oh,
technicality.
well, you know what? No. I like the technicality though. Did you hear? Because so at one point, I don't think it's Gomez gets up and he starts shooting just with his machine gun down into the crowd, and they shoot back at him. Blah blah blah. He gets hit, and I think that's what happens. And then,
he gets winged, and that's how they catch him.
But he does end up killing someone, so that's what he's getting charged for, is killing the one person. But they're like Diaz, like, it was inconclusive with the bullet, so we have to let him go because we don't know if he actually killed the guy. I was like, but he was shooting a machine gun in public. I think there's another charge you could have arrested him for.
At a police officer.
Yeah, exactly.
In the
It's
line
like,
of
even
duty.
if he didn't kill the guy.
Yeah.
Also, it's a cop in '92. Guaranteed they would have framed him.
Yeah.
Well, it is funny because even when they've got him arrested, like you see them like punching his wound, and like these cop shows are watching these sci-fi cop shows. They really have a fascist leaning to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're really like, who cares about the law?
Yeah. They don't have respect for due process. That's for sure.
But I did like once Gomez got out, we cut to the his after party from the court case, and it's just Stomp.
It's beats, and it's the most percussive after party I've ever been to.
It was really weird. And you know what it is? It's clearly someone's like, what are the kids like right now? Like, what's that Stomp? Can we do Stomp but not have it be Stomp? How would you do it? I don't know, like really badly? And like that's what it is.
Do you think it was like them trying to, like that's what they thought that ethnic group was really into, was like these percussive beats, so they're trying to mimic that?
I honestly do think that the recorder director was just like, this is what
they're
Latinos
Filipino.
like.
They like this stuff. Yeah.
I was just like, this is almost certainly racist.
There's a lot of racist moments in this film.
Oof. Although I did like the jive talking cop, who is a problem in general. Him and Nash have a cool high five though.
Oh yeah, they go for a high five and then they stop halfway through.
And then they turn their hands backwards.
And then they
Oh, I missed
and
that
they
part.
tap their hands together.
Oh, I missed
I
that
couldn't
part.
really see it because it was dark, but I thought that's what they did.
But I did think that should be our new welcome, and we have a guest on.
Just don't touch them.
Well, that's always a rule. But no, we do the high five where we don't touch.
Just don't touch the
Very
guest.
cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Also, it's good for the audio for people listening because
They don't know what's happening.
They don't know what's happening.
It doesn't pop.
It's like an inside joke for
It's
the
just us
studio.
giggling.
just like now.
We're doing it right now.
Let's talk really quickly. Nash has dreams approximately 75 times across this episode.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about it every time. Let's just
It's
talk
the same
about these
dream.
dreams in general. What is the dream first?
The dream is it comes to the same thing, which is his son dying.
Yeah. His son is sitting in a
But
car.
it doesn't follow any Freudian or Jungian archetype, apparently.
Oh, yes.
That's why he's
told us
worried. He's
later.
going insane.
It's got to be one or the other.
It's one of the
Honestly, the amount of dreams I've had that I'm sure don't fall into any category.
True.
I loved this stuff because it was like watching the son in the car. You're like, oh, something bad's going to happen to him. And then the fact that a man drives by with a rocket launcher and launches a rocket at the car, I'm like, whoa, drive-by rocket launching. This future is tough.
Yeah, bullying was getting out of control in 1992.
They never explain it, though. That's the whole issue, right? They never explain why they shot the kid. Was he just in the line of fire? Was it like, why was the kid
A little
there?
later on, it comes up as someone says it was a product test and it was just an accident.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's classic product test.
Product testing.
Honestly, if you want to know a missile launcher works,
Just
you
shoot it
have to find a kid.
Sitting in a car unattended.
Yeah, see if it
while
works.
his dad's upstairs and blow him up.
In the dream, we'll also see the toy Robosaurus a little bit. We'll see the toy Robosaurus kind of grow. You get a tease of the big Robosaurus that's to come. And when he sleeps, often the toy Robosaurus at his house will move around on its own as if sentient.
Which also is not explained because I thought at one point what we were going to find out was that his son's memory or essence or spirit or what have you was in the robot.
Oh, interesting.
That's what I thought. And I was like, oh, it's going to be a thing where this is the way he connects with his kid and his kid's kind of back. But it's just like, none of the robot moves. It's like, why? I don't know.
I thought maybe it was him controlling it from a dream, but that's not the case either.
No, it's not.
No, because it could be that he is slowly realizing his powers, but it's not. Because old Jeremiah... every time he shows up, and this is another frustrating thing, it's not just in this show but in a lot of TV shows, where someone has information to give and instead of just giving it, they act very coy about it. And he's like, I gotta teach you something. Like, what are you gonna teach me? He's like, later, my friend, later. It's like, why not right now? We're riding down this escalator. No, I can't possibly tell you. You need to learn on your own. Why? I'll see you later. It's like, God, it's so frustrating.
But the actual teaching was a very quick process. It literally took.
That's what I mean.
He's like, concentrate, Nash, concentrate, and then 2 minutes later, he kind of realized his superpower. So,
Sorry, what was the accent thing I had there?
I just remember him saying concentrate a lot over and over again.
Do you think maybe because it is a robot, does it have artificial intelligence,
Did it become self-aware?
or do you think that the Trojan horse was alive?
I think they just were like, wouldn't it be cool if we just saw this thing move around as a real tease for later?
Yeah.
Also, it looks real stupid when it moves.
It does.
Like, it
does.
might look really cool. When I was a kid, I remember that was really fun. Like, it picked up the cars and ate them. But like, I think in that sphere of that world, it's kind of cool. But as soon as you put it on the street, you're like, that thing has no mobility whatsoever.
I liked when the toy, because when he's having these dreams, at some point you see the toy go into his room and he starts picking up toy cars and breaking them. Like, I'm just like, it can, even if the toy can only really do what it does in in its live shows.
Its motions are limited.
That's true. You mentioned it. Nash goes to see a psychologist at some point and is very worried he's going insane. In fact, actually, at some point, almost quits the police force. It's kind of interesting. It's rare that you see a cop who's over the edge. Like he's the only one who's like, I should probably quit, you guys.
Yeah.
like something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Well, his
I'm
partner
going through some
asks
stuff.
him a couple times if he's okay. Also, that she might have feelings for him in one scene. It was just like, remember, there's a scene very early on where he's like, I'm gonna go take a rest or sleep or something, and then he kisses her full on.
No, we'll get to that.
Okay.
I'll explain to that.
The unrequited love.
Anyway, she's a little bit worried about him, but yes, he comes in and goes like, I don't think I'm mentally stable, so take away my gun. And they're like, nah, you're all right.
Keep the firearm.
It's a very odd character. It's funny you mentioned it. It's like it's not necessarily totally bad. It sometimes almost becomes like a really weird pulp fiction kind of thing that kind of works.
It could have been better if they just kept Robosaurus out of the movie. Like, I don't know.
I'm very interested by this idea that Robosaurus was the thing holding it back. I'm really thinking about it. It's like, is that true? That was my Robosaurus alarm.
Sorry, it's Robosaurus.
Okay, you guys. Let's talk about the bad guy, the real one who caused the death of his son with these rocket launchers, the arms dealer, the Colonel.
And I think the Colonel should have been played by Truman Capote.
Yeah.
Don't you think they're very similar?
Yeah, very
this
similar.
actor, though, you've seen him before, right?
He's the guy from Killer Fish that I just watched on MST3K. I recognized his voice immediately. I'm like, that unique voice, and then I looked him up, and I'm like, that's the dude.
He's been in a lot of like genre stuff. Like I think he played like at least 3 characters in Star Trek.
Oh yeah.
I think Truman Capote is a perfect way to describe him. Like he's a little stout, a unique voice.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't mean this to be insulting, but a slightly like affected, effeminate sort of voice.
Sure.
Is that a way to describe it?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then he's also got this tiny little dog he's carrying around with him everywhere.
Yeah. Like the Don Corleone with the cat.
He's a real villain.
Yeah. He's a bad
Yeah,
guy.
I liked him as a character. I thought he was more realized than most of the characters in this. More than Jimmy Nash.
Oh, David Nash is.
Yeah.
His defining character trait is dead son.
yeah, it really is. And we didn't mention at one point he watched his home video of his kid on Laserdisc.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
That's right.
That was pretty accurate to the time, actually.
Yeah, it was good.
That was like high-end technology at the time. Remember,
Absolutely.
early 90s, the Laserdisc was the thing to do.
I
Or watch.
remember when that happened. I'm like, yeah, this checks out.
Yeah,
This is
the
like
story
this is
checks out.
future for them.
Yeah, this is the future.
He sells weapons. He's a big weapons dealer. He sells them to gangs, although he misses the old days when he used to sell them to international terrorists.
Yep.
But I guess in the future, that's over. It's just street
There's no more
gangs.
terrorism in the future.
He's talking to one of these gang members, Tyrone, because Tyrone's trying to set up a weapons deal. He wants a whole bunch of weapons to come in, and while they're in the middle of that deal, Gomez is brought in to him because the Colonel wants to chew him out. I mean, it's not like the Colonel is his boss. This seems
I
to
know,
be
it was
an
weird.
independent contractor.
It's like he brought 2 different clients in at the same time and sort of I don't know.
Humiliated
Yeah,
one of them.
humiliated one of them in front of the other one. It's like, that's not good business at all.
Well,
it's not what you do.
It is good business because he just eliminates the competition.
That's true. That's
true.
true, as we find out.
Because the Colonel, after humiliating Gomez for almost getting, because he's like, you almost got me caught by showing off my Scorpion to the police. He tells Tyrone, it's like, I know I said I was going to get you those machine guns, but how would you feel about a bunch of rocket launchers? Let's do a test. And he goes up on the roof, and as Gomez drives away in his like car from 1937, he blows up Gomez. And I'm like, well, that's one customer gone.
What did Tyrone say what he was into? His rocket was what? Like, I forget the wording, blowing things up or drive-by, like...
Well,
like I forget, he had used a certain term for
I'm not
what
sure.
he wanted those
At
rocket
some point
launchers for.
when he offers him the rocket launcher, he's like, the guy's like, I kind of want those machine guns. He's like, can I do a drive-by with a rocket launcher?
Yeah.
And he assures him, you can. I've tried.
Yeah, I tried. Just so you know, it's perfect on children.
Yeah, it works on kids.
Isn't the missile launcher called the MJ-80, right?
Yes, the MJ-80.
MJ-80. That's a good name. It's not with Scorpion.
No.
It's no Scorpion.
There's no Scorpion, but...
That's the thing. I was like, after the name Scorpion, I thought we were going to have cool weapon names for everything.
Yeah.
A little bit of a letdown.
The Badger.
the Badger, yeah.
What I like though is at the end of all of this, Tyrone's impressed, but he's still going to check in with the competition, price around, do a little shopping, see if he can get a better deal somewhere else.
He's a shrewd businessman.
Also, let me just cut in. What was in Tyrone's hair?
Yeah, a chopstick or a
Metal
comb?
chopstick.
Metal chopstick.
I thought it was a chopstick.
That was his,
yeah.
and literally, that's his character.
Yeah.
Like, isn't it crazy? Put a chopstick in his hair?
It's his-
Crazy chopstick. Smart consumer.
Yeah.
Shops around.
Shops around.
The Colonel does not like to hear about this guy like gonna go shop around for the things. So he sends his, I just call this guy his henchman. He's got like a bunch of henchmen, but he's got like one lead henchman who he just sends to do all of the work.
The crazy guy.
Yeah. He sends him out, and the henchman uses one of the rocket launchers to in broad daylight blow up 2 huge military trucks, which I guess are the competition.
And he sings the whole time while doing it.
I have a question though. Before he blows up that truck, we got a couple shots of these trucks driving through the streets, but the shot opens on a wide shot, and the first thing we see is a little person in a red cape and a hood riding a tricycle.
Yeah, I know.
And the camera pans up, and it's never commented on.
I know. I wrote that. I said, and I know this is not the right language, but my note was, a midget riding a bike for no reason. It's and I know it's a little person, excuse me. I think they just thought it would be interesting of like, isn't it the future kind of
it's
weird?
like a dystopian future with all these weird, like it's not aliens because it's not Star Wars, but it's almost like that's the vibe. Like
It's just like that person is slightly different than what you're used to, so isn't that odd?
Isn't that futuristic?
Completely shirtless in a hood and a cape riding a tricycle.
To be fair,
was insane.
He's the only one dressed sanely because it's so hot out.
That's true.
Right?
That is true.
I wouldn't be wearing my top.
And you got those great abs that show off.
Oh, yeah, right.
The cops come out and they investigate this truck attack. And while they're doing it, Nash finds a piece of debris that has the same Cyrillic lettering on the debris as from his son's attack. And so he's like, this must be connected somehow.
This is I hate this sort of thing. This is so lazy. It's like, oh yeah, there's a piece of shrapnel. Maybe it's connected to my
there's 2
murder.
letters on it. I recognize it
Man,
from
this is
my...
so stupid. But anyway,
To be fair though, how many rocket launchers attacks did they get in the city where there's, I guess there's
well, that's what I
different
mean.
clues
Why
that
don't
you
you
could
just
follow.
connect people who are attacking with rocket launchers
Yeah, I know,
as opposed to the things they're hitting?
Yeah.
There's one guy with a rocket launcher. Just sitting there. I'm like, go to that guy.
You think that would be connected somehow?
What I like though is the colonel and his henchmen are sitting in a car just watching the police work. And they're like, hey, isn't that the guy whose son we blew up in that accident? I'm like, And what does he say here? He's like, he kind of tells his henchmen, he's like, do you mind killing him for me? Because like, I don't want any risk. He says, because we are on the verge of consummating our greatest transaction.
The Colonel had a lot of good lines.
He
was good.
He had a lot of good lines. That's true.
My favorite was all's well that ends well. I was like, cool.
I think wouldn't this have been a better show if it was just the Colonel trying to sell arms to
Yeah,
people?
I think
it's a
so.
better show, right?
I could watch that
And
guy.
all the kooky people who want to buy missile launchers.
That's actually not a bad idea at
Yeah.
all.
Him him dealing with clients all day.
He's like, what a headache. 3 people want missile launchers, and I only got 2.
I'm out of stock. I got to order more from Iran.
Also,
Too soon. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about the international conflict going on.
also at this crime scene is, of course, Jeremy J. Jonas.
Triple J.
He's Triple J's hanging around, and Nash is pretty upset. He has him arrested at some point, and Nash will break out of prison, which he does apparently. On
How
the
could he
reg.
arrest them though? I didn't
I know.
understand what.
On nothing.
Yeah,
he,
on
he
what
was just at a
charge?
crime scene.
Fascism.
He's
You're coming with
like,
me.
I don't like you. Also, you're black.
Yeah.
I arrest you.
And you're in my dreams.
Yeah.
And what I liked was Triple J at some point tells Nash that he needs to talk to him because he needs to tell him about the blossoming that is about to come,
Yeah, that was the line I liked.
Blossoming.
which I guess is your ability to make things big with your brain. It's the
Yeah,
blossoming.
blossoming.
But all he says is concentrate, Nash. Concentrate.
They should have called the entire series the blossoming.
Blossoming.
And are we getting to the? There's so many weird little plots, but I wrote a thing. Are we going to talk about his neighbor who keeps hitting on him?
Literally, my next line here is Nash's neighbor, Nicole.
Yeah.
He's got a neighbor. She's insanely flirty.
Yeah.
He has no personality,
But she still likes him.
so he doesn't react to her flirting.
Well, I couldn't tell if that was what the character was or he's just not a very good actor. I'm guessing it's probably a little bit of both. She's like, being very flirty and it's suggestive. And he's just like, my son died.
Yeah.
Hold on, I got to go back to my dark apartment. My son died.
I like that she comes by. Her reasons for coming by his apartment are the post office keeps sending Nash's faxes to her
Yeah.
apartment, which I'm like, how does that work?
Yeah.
I also sorry.
Oh, forward his number to her.
In the future, everyone's phone numbers are just like one digit off.
Yeah.
At one point, I'm gonna do the whole line because I loved it. But at one point, Nash is watching a bunch of kids playing an open fire hydrant. One of the few times we see how hot it is outside is the kids are playing an open fire hydrant. He's remembering his own son. Like, it's a very sad moment for him because that's all he has is like remembering his son moments. And she leans down into his car where he's looking, and she whispers in his ear, "Would I look ridiculous if I were to walk over there and casually take off my clothes and join them?"
That was a weird line.
was-
It stood out. It stood out.
It was so insane.
Yeah.
Wasn't he all like, he's like, yeah, I might have to arrest you.
Yeah, he was like, "Yeah, I'd have to arrest you," and she's like, "Handcuffs."
Yeah.
eh?"
Like, he's like, yes, please use handcuffs.
But he wasn't into it at all.
He can't take a hint.
Yeah.
No, but
He can't
he does ask her. He says to her at one part, "I know a nice legal way to get cool." and that's the ice bar.
Yeah, they head to the ice bar.
And my first note was, what are the illegal ways to get cool?
This is a legal establishment. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a legal.
Don't worry, all this ice is legal, everyone.
Everyone shoots up liquid nitrogen.
Right, right. Oh, that's fun. That's a better show too.
I did he's like, let's go to the ice bar. Cut to the ice bar. He's sitting there telling her.
I know.
We're hearing another story about his dead son. He's like, and then my son died. And she's
He's-
sitting there like,
what he didn't learn about dating is do not monopolize the date. Just discussing about how your kid was killed.
I'm understanding why he's divorced now.
Yeah.
this must be every interaction with him. Is like he's out getting a hot dog in the street. It's like, hey, let me tell you about the time my son died.
But what I liked about this was when I was watching this, I have a thing. I don't particularly like saxophone music. I just find there's something annoying about it. And this
Only
there's
in Pink
it's
Floyd
a-
solos.
No, that's fine. I don't mind in Pink Floyd. But there's sort of like a jazz band playing.
Yeah, at this ice bar.
And what we find is, for whatever reason, Jeremiah is the one playing the saxophone.
Yeah, Jeremiah's their like leader.
He's learned this over the years of time
Again,
travel.
like why?
Yeah, this is right after he escaped from prison, and he ended
Yeah.
up like the next scene he's playing.
Yeah,
in
and
this-
they're like, how did you escape from prison? He's like, I've learned a lot of things.
Yeah.
I was like, why would you have learned how to like?
He does this
escape from
all the time.
Yeah, it's just like all the time breaking us.
Well, when they leave him in prison, he's just like, not this again.
I can tell you now, if someone added 300 years to my life, breaking out of prison would not have been one of the skills I gained.
no,
He has 2,300.
Yeah, okay, maybe up to 2,000 years. You've run out of things.
things to do.
I did he basically sees a man who's supposed to be in prison. He gets up. He's like, excuse me, I'll be right back. Walks away from his date, arrests him. And as he's driving away, he picks up and calls dispatch. He's like, hey, can someone send a uniformed officer by the ice bar? I left my date there and didn't tell her I was leaving. Can someone take her home for me?
She's Asian.
Yeah, he did mention that.
just so you can find her.
Yeah, the one Asian person in the bar. But I did like that because usually in shows they don't even bother. But someone was like, guys, everyone's going to wonder what happened to this woman. Make sure we have one scene where he mentions
Yeah,
it.
that's something you don't see.
It is funny, though. You mentioned earlier like how they tease out how they're going to teach me this power. They keep doing this, and they'll do it a few more times in this episode. But like, he'll get really close to telling him, and then Nash will be like, "I don't want to hear it."
Yeah.
Whereas before, JJJ wouldn't tell him, and now he wants to, and now Nash is like, "No,
No, I don't want it.
I don't want to know."
Structurally, what's interesting about this is, as a viewer, by about the 30-minute mark, you know everything you need to know about this. You know who the characters are, for better or worse.
Yeah.
You know who the characters are, what the plot is, what the stakes are. But then it goes on for another hour of just sort of repeating the same steps again, where it's
Yeah.
like, I'm not saying you just had to have him show up and go, you have a secret power, and then immediately they start developing it. But like, they just play the same scenes over and over for no reason other than we want this to be an hour and a half.
Well, this
In a
is-
slightly different way.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, this is I guess the problem for Nash is Nash isn't putting the crime together. He's just like he's not even dealing with his dreams, and he doesn't want to hear about them from this guy. So the only people driving this plot forward are literally the Colonel. Because the Colonel
Right.
sees Nash at the crime scene. He's trying to blow up his competitors. Like, the only thing moving the plot forward is what the Colonel's machinations are. Because after this, he goes home to go to bed, and the Colonel's henchman shows up, and, like, Jimmy's open his, like, door.
Okay, yeah, I love this so it's basically the Colonel's like, we don't want this guy catching up that we're the only people shooting missiles at stuff. So he sends
Henchman.
his henchman as an assassin. He goes into the apartment. The guy's sleeping. You can do anything to him, shoot him, stab him, whatever. But what he wants to do is leave a very weird looking
Time bomb.
time bomb that he leaves, and then
On the
he's-
front credenza.
Yeah, and then he's just like, I'm gonna sneak out, which is like, okay.
Mission accomplished.
But what happens? Why is that a bad plan?
Oh, because Robosaurus is there. Toy Robosaurus comes out.
And what we know is it can do two things: crunch cars and pick up bombs
And breathe fire.
and breathe. Well, we don't know that yet.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he hasn't breathed fire yet.
But yeah, the Robosaurus drives it out into the street. We never see any of that. Just
Yeah.
it explodes in the street like 5 minutes later.
Well, we find out it's at least a block away, right?
Yeah,
How does he get upstairs? There's so many unanswered questions. Sorry, I don't know why that's important. None of this really makes sense.
There's an elevator. There's an elevator.
There's an elevator, right?
So, how do you think you use those pleasure spheres?
Good question.
But this time, when he's having this nap, he dreams of a genie logo on a truck covered with Cyrillic letters, just like the ones at the crime scene.
So is
A clue.
So do you think this is how the powers manifest themselves? Jeremiah shows up and is like, "Hey, I'm going to be vague about stuff," and the dreams the person has will slowly give them more information to give them their power.
I think it is unrelated.
Right.
I think this is just a man with PTSD who's just remembering a little more. Because
Right.
what he's remembering is not related to his power to transform things. What he's remembering is a logo on a truck that drove by, which theoretically, if you were in a traumatic instance and like maybe over time your memory would get better and perhaps you would remember that.
That's what's weird about this thing. You could take any of these weird little plot threads and take them out of the movie in editing, and you probably wouldn't miss it. Like, you could take Jeremiah out of this entirely.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't hurt anything. You could take his dreams out. It wouldn't really matter. You could take out his dead son. Wouldn't really matter.
You could take out that neighbor for sure.
Yeah, you could take out the neighbor for sure. You can take out, as we're going to talk, the weird little love plot line with his partner. Doesn't really matter. There's so many things that are jammed in this that in their own aren't that bad, but they all come together in a really messy, unnecessary way.
I think it's maybe to just fit a bunch of stereotypes for like those kind of movies. They're like, oh, we need like this type of character, or we need this sort of, like subplot line.
Checking some boxes.
Yeah, check boxes.
Even though it doesn't actually need it or drive the plot along. So,
Well, you
lazy writing.
Yeah, it's definitely not active writing.
No.
Only one draft was necessary for this movie.
No revisions.
You mentioned this slightly earlier, but we're going to get into it now. He's got this clue of this genie logo. So he goes to work and he finds his partner. He's like, hey, my blind informant, which is what he's been saying for when he has a dream and tells people. That's how he makes up the excuse. Has given me a clue about this thing. He's like, partner, would you mind looking into this genie trucking company for me? And she's like, sure, I guess. And it's at this point he leans down and kisses her full on the mouth and walks away. And I was just like, that is inappropriate at the workplace.
Yeah, and it's like, it's hard to describe how out of the blue this is.
He's like wanted. Hey, it's not a wanted kiss.
Like, yeah, thanks for doing that. Mm-hmm. Then leans over and like a real long, passionate kiss. And it's like, very rarely do I do that to my coworkers.
Here's what it would be like. Go to McDonald's, order small fries, kiss the person behind the
I know. And then, but she gives a bit of a look like, that wasn't too bad. Because basically, and Luke, we've mentioned this before, there's you were to catch up, there's a bit of a thread we found in a lot of leading men in not very good TV shows, which is the audience is supposed to like them just because. The women like this character just because. And all of their behavior is sort of justified because he's kind of he's a handsome lead and like, you like him, right? So like, he can kind of do what he wants.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a weird trend that happens in almost all of these not very good shows.
But in real life, it's like morally reprehensible, and you're like, who would do this, and why should this endear me to as the main character?
I mean, it's in almost everything we watch. This one in particular stands out, but like it's like male fantasy overload. It's just like everyone loves me because my son is dead. I have no other personality.
I'm a tortured soul.
Yeah.
So she looks into the company. She discovers the colonel runs it. It's his shipping company. So Nash goes and visits the colonel. His cover is he's an ice shipper. Probably a good business though.
Well, and we do see the ice later. It's just big blocks of ice. I like this. There was one guy getting the ice, and he was like looking at it. He's like, yeah, that's some good ice. I was like, oh, he's doing his job. He's in quality control. He's like, oh, no, that's some clear ice.
I mean, in a future where it's too hot, wouldn't that probably be more lucrative than arms dealing?
Well, also, there's got to be other ways to cool things. Guys, like, it's the future.
I keep forgetting it's hot though. Like every time there's nothing that reminds me that it's hot.
But there's nothing to remind
That's
you.
what I mean. Visually on screen, I'm just like, it seems cool. They're all wearing jackets. It kind of looks rainy to me. Like
that'd be good. They're all tank tops.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing? Wouldn't it be great if his partner was played by Carrie Fisher?
Sure.
That'd be good.
Did she look like Carrie Fisher?
I just, for some reason, I was watching. I was like, Carrie Fisher would be better in this role.
Yeah.
I mean,
better actress.
You could probably find better people for all these roles.
I thought she was okay. Actually, I think other than maybe Nash, who's a little bland, everyone else was just kind of like. Actually, I looked into most of the actors in this movie, and they're all just like they've all been in like 75 TV shows. They just are constantly working, and like one of them is definitely a cop I've seen. The captain's a cop I've seen before.
That's Pacey Witter's dad.
Oh yeah,
from Dawson's Creek.
Right, there you go.
Nice one.
I thought it was him, and then I looked him up. I'm like, it is him.
I recognized Jeremiah as weirdly, and I was like, what do I know him from? And you know what it was? He was the judge in A Few Good Men.
That's right.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's where I knew him from. I was watching. I was like,
he looks like one of those iconic actors
Yeah.
that you see, but he's no Morgan Freeman, so you don't. It's not immediate, but he's been in a lot of stuff.
Like for everyone involved in this show, this was like their gig that Tuesday.
Yeah,
like they all had like 3 other shows they shot that week.
They flew in for the weekend, filmed their scenes, and went back to their real shows.
Hold on, am I in love with this guy, or is there a robot? What's happening? Like, don't worry about it. It'll all
work out in editing.
Getting back to Nash confronting the colonel, he's basically like, I wasn't involved. You can check my trucking records. I had no trucks in the area. Like he basically gives him a stack of paper and kind of sends him on his way. But
Oh, he also leaves cackling, which I love when villains just cackle because they're having a great time. Like he's like, "Here's all the papers," and I'm like, "Oh wow."
Well, he knows he can't get him. He's
Yeah.
untouchable.
Yeah, exactly.
Why did he give him the whole stack of originals? I mean, that wasn't a copy. He gave him like all his shipping.
Ihor is very hot in the future. That's why.
Yeah, he was getting to him.
He didn't want to be by a hot copier. You kidding?
I'm like, is he giving the originals? Why? Like that just doesn't seem responsible.
He's just like, keep him.
Keep him, yeah.
Keep
you
him.
know.
Well, 'cause he's
Take
so
him home,
nonchalant.
read
He's like,
him.
Yeah, you look at my records. There's a million of them. Good luck.
And then he cackles.
I do like, though, he leaves and he tracks down his henchman and he's so mad. He just starts accusing the henchman of being a coward. It's just like a long scene. He's like, "You're a coward. I gave you a bomb and you got too scared and you
that's
didn't
right.
go to his house and you didn't blow him up because you're a coward."
I would have reprimanded him too, though. The guy's sleeping, and you left a bomb.
Yeah,
You could put a pillow over his head. That'd be more effective.
yeah.
Well, the colonel seems to have given him the bomb.
Oh, that's true, though. Yeah, you're
The
right.
colonel was like, because he's like, "You're a coward." Because the colonel's assumption is he gave the man a bomb. The man got too afraid of a bomb, so he threw it away instead of doing anything, and that's why he's not dead.
But the guy's like, no, Robosaurus. and then at this point, the viewer, you're like, oh yeah, what is this show about? Robosaurus? They keep mentioning it, but it doesn't do anything.
Is he the main character? Is he the hero?
Well, that's it. The henchman doesn't even know about Robosaurus yet. Like, nobody knows about
Yeah.
Robosaurus.
He's just in the closet.
We are an hour into the movie. Nobody knows anything about Robosaurus. I do like he sends the henchman out to try again, and the henchman's just driving behind the seat of his car,
love it.
chanting, "Die, die,
What I love about that though is he really changed his strategy. His first strategy was as passive as you get. You leave a bomb in a room. But his second one is, you know what? Screw it. I'm just driving a car into this guy.
And he like tracks him down to the police station. Nash is outside with his partner, and he just drives a car into Nash and his partner. They're both hit.
Yeah, I know. But
Nash just gets up.
that's what I wondered. At first I
Unscathed.
thought he hit just Nash. But Nash gets up and was like, oh, that was something. And the partner
Is dead.
dead. But no, she gets to say two things. Did you catch the two things she said?
Yes.
She has two things. She says, one, she wanted to let him know she believes in God.
Yep.
Yep.
And
Very
the second
important.
thing is, I wish we had hooked up.
Yeah, she always wanted to secretly hook up with him.
She was like, "I know you think of me as one of the boys, but I'm a girl too." And I was just like, this is where I was just like, this is male fantasy overload.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even have a partner who doesn't want to bone you.
It was literally the only reason for her character to be there was for him to kiss so she could like him so they could kill him. But the sense I got though is the writer was like, we need a reason for him to get really angry so he can, become vengeful and go get his revenge. But it's like, he already had his son die. Why did he need someone else to die too?
Well,
Because you didn't see the son, so it was kind of removed.
You
Whereas
see the kid die in like 14
Well, yeah, it's true.
flashbacks.
But he was dead before the movie started. It was just
1
a
year.
flashback.
I mean, I have a lot of questions. Like, after this comes, the police show up. They rule the whole thing drunk driving hit and run.
Because there's been 4 of them.
4 of them.
In Sector B.
Oh yeah, they said in
that,
Sector
that
B,
evening.
there's been 4, and I was like, that is a lot of hit and runs.
Yeah.
And then the captain takes away Nash's gun and badge. He's suspended. Here's my question, though. He visited the colonel because maybe the logo matched. He got all his records, and the colonel wasn't very helpful.
He was very helpful. He gave him all the
He
records.
does give him, you're right. How does he know the colonel did any of this?
He doesn't. There's this weird leap of logic where he's like, he keeps saying to the lieutenant or whatever his rank
The
is.
captain,
He's like, he sold weapons and all this stuff and he's dirty. And it's like, no. A scene ago you said you checked the records. There's literally nothing on him and everything is clean. But it's like there's a scene missing.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, oh no. Well, we know he's a bad guy. So
Yeah.
he is.
Yeah.
I just went along with what I was like, I can't fully understand where I got there. But what I liked is they fire him, hard cut to his apartment. He's sawing a shotgun. He's sawing off a
And
shotgun.
here's the thing in TV.
he's-
I don't know why they have people sawing off a shotgun because so the only reason to do that is really a couple of reasons. One is it's mobility and
Concealment.
concealment. That's really the only reasons. But he's going to a factory to shoot people, so all he's doing is limiting the range of the gun.
It's the...
It looks cool. I get it. It looks cool. It looks like you're
That's-
you're the Punisher gearing up for battle. But it's like, why would you be doing that?
It's showing him getting like psyched up to go in and take everybody. I guess that's just like the movie trope or the movie
Nothing
equivalent
psychs
of
someone up like cutting a gun.
Yeah, I got excited. I knew what was coming, so I knew where that scene was
I
going.
did like the neighbor walked in. She's like, oh, what are you doing? He's like,
That's right, she walks in.
There's a police thing happening later.
She's like, all right, see you later.
Okay, bye.
She's like, okay. But yeah, he heads down to the colonel's warehouse. It's the same night that the Tyrone arms dealer is going on.
Yeah.
What a happy coincidence, because he doesn't know what's happening. He's gonna like pull off this mission. It's basically a suicide mission. It's heavily guarded, the whole place.
There's 25 guys.
That really is his mission. His mission is he's going to go and just kill as many people as he can. That's his
Before he
plan?
dies. Yeah, there seems to be no other mission going on.
And he won't do well because he sawed off his shotgun. So.
Yeah, they got better weapons.
But old Triple J, Jeremiah J Jonas.
J Jonas.
He shows up and he says, "Let me teach you how to do your thing in 30 seconds."
30 seconds. Yeah, he only needed 30 seconds.
He's basically just like, hey, concentrate. And he's like, I'm trying. He's like, come on, concentrate. He's like, I am. He's like, come on, concentrate. And then he's
Concentrate
but
harder.
he doesn't
It doesn't
concentrate
work.
enough.
It doesn't work.
Because he doesn't know how to concentrate. So then what's his face? Jeremiah's like, if there's one thing this guy really cares about, it's me. He doesn't want me to die. He's at least seen me 10 times for 3 seconds at a time.
He might remember my name.
You might remember my name. So Jeremiah goes out to these street toughs that are guarding the factory, and he's like, he just sort of like picks a fight with them.
Not even really, too. Like, he goes up to them. They're like, "Hey, old man, you can't go this way." And he's like, "But I want to." And they're like, "It's okay, buddy. I know it's hard to be old. Please go that way." And he's just like, "No, I'm going to keep going." And they're never going to shoot him. They feel bad for him.
Yeah, he goes, I guess you're selling weapons there. And they're like, wrong thing to say, old man.
Big mistake, old man.
And then old Nash is like,
Yeah, super tight close up on his face, lightning striking.
He's concentrated like he's never concentrated before.
And then oh, smoke. What comes out of the smoke?
Finally, Robosaurus has arrived.
In the least climactic
Is
way
that the
possible.
first time fire came out, though? Because I could have sworn fire came
In the
out
dream.
In the dream. Okay, I swore I saw breathing fire earlier.
This is literally the last 10 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
Out of an hour and a half,
Yeah.
Robosaurus finally arrives, blowing fire. He moves so slowly.
I know.
It's so awkward.
I just kept thinking, I was like, guys, just run behind it. Just run behind it. It can't turn around.
It'll take...
I did like, though, like anytime it like ran into like a guard booth or a box or a barrel, just everything explodes the second it touches it.
That was funny because they want to show how it's sort of like impenetrable and it's so powerful. But it sort of just drives into things. But clearly, like the actual Robosaurus isn't very mobile, so it will just like drive up to stuff and then stuff just explodes. I'm like, it didn't even touch it. Like, it's that powerful. Things are just exploding.
And
as
the
it goes
scene
near
cuts
it.
and you don't see
Yeah.
it move into the next...
Then they did also do a couple like cuts of like hands moving into things, but it doesn't have the mobility to grab stuff. So it's just like a hand comes, and it's like, it squished something. I'm like, oh, I
For
didn't see that, though.
$2.2 million, it was very underwhelming.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much.
Well, it's not meant for battle.
It's
No, I
not
guess
meant for
not.
television. It's meant for like a wide spectacle.
Yeah.
Not meant for the intimacy of your home.
Yeah.
It's great because all the henchmen basically immediately find its weak point and run inside a building. Like, as soon as they run inside, I'm like, well, that's the end of Robosaurus.
No, because he can jam. He just touches and explodes stuff.
Well, I mean, what we kind of see is Nash runs into with his gun, and there's like chaos inside, and Robosaurus puts his hand through a window at some point.
Grabs that guy.
He grabs the henchman,
Yeah.
and the henchman's like,
Dangles him.
I'm being dangled. The colonel probably ran out his escape route.
Yeah.
He turned on his boss really quick.
He immediately.
Would you not? If
After that talking down
if
too,
you
yeah.
came face to face with Robosaurus and he grabbed you and had you hanging
By my jacket,
by your jacket, you would be like,
I'd give up a lot of
you'd give
information.
up your mother.
Yeah, probably.
What I like though is as Nash runs off, old Jeremiah J Jonas shows up and he's like, "Hey, apologize to me for being mean outside."
Yeah, that was weird. And then he's like apologizing. And the guy's like sorry. And he's like, bah, ha, ha, ha. I'm like, wow, you're a sadist.
I'm just trying to make a living, an honest working stiff.
I wrote-
Don't have to justify yourself. Just apologize to the guy.
I wrote down the henchman's apology in full because it was amazing. He's like, "Apologize to me," and the henchman's like crying. He's like, "Look, Mr. Man, Mr. Handsome Man, I'm sorry. I'm just trying. I'm just but a working stiff trying to make a buck." Those are his exact lines.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what?
The dialogue is really weird for some of these parts. Like, why would he ask him to apologize?
It comes off the page and into life.
But yeah, Nash chases the colonel down. The colonel gets in a car and drives away, giving the perfect opportunity for Robosaurus to reappear.
Yeah, because as soon as he gets in a car, I'm like, wait, there's one thing Robosaurus can do very well.
Crush.
It's crush cars.
What I did like though is as the colonel's driving away, Nash runs out with his sawed-off shotgun and just starts firing into a crowd.
I know. I was like, that other, it doesn't matter because in the future you can apparently just shoot guns into crowds. That other guy got off.
There's no way to tell where the bullets came from.
Yeah, you can't tell.
Well, imagine the technicalities I'll have to explain to the police chief after.
And yeah, Robosaurus steps into frame, does the one thing he was built to do: pick up the colonel's car,
Crush it.
crush it, tear it in half, and then make it explode.
Yeah, and then it explodes.
I feel like the whole movie was building up to that one scene.
Yeah, it was.
Like that was like it
They
came
knew
around full circle.
They knew,
and that-
like, you know, like
The
they're-
first thing they wrote was that scene.
they're making the movie. There's all these production problems. They're like, guys, I know everyone's unhappy. I know this is not going well. Guys, as soon as Robosaurus gets here, people are gonna go crazy. And they're like, but this movie sucks. We don't know it. Don't worry about it. Robosaurus is gonna make this thing. And it's like, no, it's
this
not.
final scene,
And
it's
then they
like
cut it out of
poetry,
all
man.
the trailers.
Yeah, and then they
cut
cut
him out of all the
they cut it
trailers.
out of all trailers. They're like, oh, it did not make this thing. It's actually quite like, you know, they're going for the sort of like Jaws thing, right? Where it's like, don't reveal it, don't reveal it, don't reveal it. Like,
Because it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, which was, you know, Jaws. But it's like, oh no, but that movie works. You know, like the end, you're like, oh, it's impressive to see a shark. This, it's like, oh, look at that thing. Look at it moving around.
Well, that's why
kinda.
20 minutes into the movie, when I saw Robosaurus, and I remember the guys, the time travelers thing was to make things big. I'm like, I know exactly where this is going. And that scene was like the culmination of like basically the whole movie.
I do like that JJJ's explanation to him is like, in your mind, in your dreams, what's the one thing you see? There's only one thing you can make big. Like, it's not a power that
I know what
works
I'd
across
make
the thing.
big.
Is only it seems to only have the power to make Robosaurus big.
So, real question, as we're getting near the end of this movie. So, if his son's favorite thing was just a big, like, it was a wooden sword, he would just made one giant wooden sword that just like lays on the ground. He's like, oh, I can't pick that up.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would have been it.
Absolutely.
So it's good that his son explained that it has wheels on its feet and it can go around and all that. So, like his son gave him all the specs in the dream. So, but I guess it was good for everyone.
It's good for everyone.
Full circle, man.
It works perfectly.
Full circle. And just on that note, why was Nash the vessel though? Like, why would this time travel? Like he makes things big, but why this particular guy? Like, is it because his son died?
He's
like,
a mutant, I think. I think it's just some people have the power.
Well, but they imply at the beginning that the reason he's doing this is because these are important things in history. But this is not an important thing in history.
like this is
Well,
the
we don't
turning
know.
point for like the future.
it's a
Like,
turning point in the future. Like, we're watching history being
Maybe
made.
this is why it's the pilot, and then the rest was.
Oh right, yeah. I guess
I
you're.
don't know. I think we might be
right.
reading a lot.
We're gonna
into
see
it.
how we would have seen how Robosaurus changed history.
It's true. He wrote great works of literature.
I did like for Robosaurus, his sort of grand finale is after he destroys the car, he leans his head back, blows fire, screams, moves his cute little flappy ears, and then vanishes.
Yeah,
And that's the end of Robosaurus.
yeah.
And then we cut to the next morning as the police looked at the aftermath. And then all the cops, including the captain, apologize to Nash, say, we should all listen to everything our dreams say to us now.
Yeah, they're all like, maybe there's something about this. Instead of police work, dreams.
Dreams.
I was like, no, this is a terrible idea. They're like, yeah, dreams. That's the lesson to take from this.
The guy's like, I can solve this case. I wasn't wearing pants the other day in my dream. I think that's probably what happened.
disrobe. But he never tells the chief though. He just says it was an informant, or what was his excuse? He never tells the police chief that it was a dream.
Oh, no, well, at the end, all the cops know that
They all
his
know
dreams,
it's a dream. They just know.
They all
Yeah.
say they're like, dreams are amazing. Like, there's like a whole conversation about how we all have to trust our dreams. It was
Yeah,
That's what they're talking
well,
about at the
that's
water
message,
cooler
is
at work.
Follow your dreams.
all your dreams.
Oh,
And
it's inspirational.
Triple J comes up to Nash and says, well, I got to head to bed. There's others I need to help now. And then Nash is like, well, okay. And he's like, or I could stay here for 50 years. Should I stick around? Yeah, I'll just hang out for 50. Like, it's so
I
weird.
know.
It seems like he's going to leave Highlander style. And then in the next sentence, he's like, oh, but maybe I'll hang around.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait,
I think
what?
this is a
I
pretty
like
good
this future.
partnership.
Yeah.
So, and now that's the end of the episode.
Oh, did he? No, wait. You forgot. Didn't he mention, didn't JJ mention at the end, he knew Confucius?
Yeah, he introduced
Oh, yeah,
his friend
that's
Confucius.
the last joke. He's like, he was a jerk or something like that. I was like, what? Okay.
But wait a minute, Confucius, 2,300 years. I'm just trying to do the timeline. This might not actually.
You're
Confucian
right.
might actually be
5,000 years ago?
No, Confucian was like the
Pre-Christ.
yeah, it was like I think it was like eight centuries. Anyway, I don't think that timeline actually works.
Unless he is a time traveler.
You know what?
but if it's only 23,
Here's what you have to say. That's the only thing that doesn't work on this show. Is the timeline.
that's the only timeline. Nothing else. Everything else makes perfect sense.
Everything flawless.
Right, flawless.
But here's a question for I guess to both of you, and I think this is probably something that you usually mention in these. So this was the pilot.
Yeah. Let's talk about what the show would have been.
What would the show be? Because at first I thought maybe it's just going to be these two sort of on adventures, and they keep solving problems by making things big. But then I was like, no, it's called Steel Justice. It has to always be this robot or steel related.
No, it's definitely this robot, I think.
It's got, well, but they clearly, someone said, guys, we have access to this robot. Write a story around it. They wrote a story, and then it's like, but you have to do it every week.
Yeah. So they would probably find like different scenarios in which to replay the same thing, like Robosaurus crushing cars.
Yeah, car rally.
blowing things up. Yeah,
Car rally.
Racetrack.
Racetrack.
That's two things.
He probably catches a plane at some point.
Traffic.
Traffic. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think they would just find new scenarios to basically do the same thing.
It's gonna be. He's gonna catch a boat one time.
Yeah, yeah.
It's gonna be
Plane,
in a
maybe.
canal, so he can grab out of the canal.
Do you think we're gonna see Robosaurus farm?
Oh, if it had gotten far enough, Robosaurus would have had to help on a farm for sure.
At some point.
He'd like dig a trench.
Yeah.
No.
Fire.
If this is the pilot, was there not a Steel Justice from before? Like there was a movie or a film? What was that?
Unrelated.
Unrelated. Okay.
I will tell you one fun thing about that unrelated Steel with an E Justice.
Yeah, I noticed.
Oh,
that.
really?
From
It's a different
87.
spelling?
Also had the neighbor Nicole in it.
Really?
Really?
She was in both Steel
Ah.
Justices.
That's
Although now I don't know what the other movie was,
Coincidental?
but when I hear the title Steel Justice, it reminds me of like being in like a jumbo video in the late 80s, and like that'd be in like the erotica section. Doesn't
Steel
it?
Justice,
Like, Steel
yeah.
Justice. I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
that'd be a movie. I'm like, oh, I shouldn't go over
now,
there.
now that you pointed it out, I see it.
Yeah.
Based on the cover art for it, I believe it's kind of a mid 80s thing where they couldn't get Van Damme or Schwarzenegger
Right.
for. Like there's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
some generic muscle man, and it's just like
Poor
whatever
man Van
hard
Damme.
target was, but for cheaper.
I'd like a movie called Generic Muscle Man.
Action fest.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys have any other things you want to talk about for this movie, or are we all wrapped up here?
There's a lot, but nothing that's going to contribute to us understanding this plot any better.
Well, let's rate it then. Ihor, what do you think?
What do you guys rate on a scale of 10?
Scale of 10, we do the IMDb star rating system up to
Okay.
10.
Honestly, compared to like I've been watching a lot of MST3K, so compared to a lot of stuff that I've seen, it was actually entertaining. It wasn't great. I'll give it a 4. Is that good or bad?
I mean,
Well, it's not a
where I
passing
thought you
grade.
were
It's not
going.
great, but
What do you think?
Oh man, there are like some things I thought were really like. If I'm just talking about like something I enjoyed watching, there's some pieces of it I really liked.
What did you really like?
Sometimes it was funny. Sometimes it was weird. Like there's some just great weird moments.
You
to
told
it.
me earlier you like those racial stereotypes. Right? We'll cut that out.
It's the length was the problem for me.
It was.
If this was a half hour, oh my! I would have loved every second
I
of it.
agree with you. And the tone could have been like lighter. It just seemed so dour for something that was about a robot that gets big and breathes fire. Like there's a little bit of humor you guys can have here.
I bet you if someone was so industrious, you could probably cut this into like a great 30-minute thing. I'm not
or
going
at least,
to do it.
or at least it would be better because I think we've mentioned we all watched this on YouTube, and the
Quality's very low.
the masochist who uploaded this did it in 10-minute in increments.
by the way, his name is the real Robosaurus.
The
Did
real
you
Robosaurus.
catch that?
So it was actually that robot just jamming keys with his like.
He wants his
immobile
legacy
hand.
to go
We're
on.
lucky
forever.
we got what we got.
Yeah. So those 10 minutes, I've never stopped and checked how far I was within a 10-minute thing. Like maybe 10 times every 10 minutes, just being like, is it done?
Is it
Is
done?
another 10 minutes? Like I watched this over the course of 2 days in maybe 30-second increments.
Oh,
because
really?
It was so boring.
I thought it was supposed to be a movie. I did not realize it was a TV pilot. So now that you mentioned it's a TV pilot, yeah, it was a bit lengthy for a TV pilot. But as a feature-length film, okay.
It was the right length.
It was the right length.
Yeah.
90 minutes.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to give it. I think I'm going to go a 4 as well.
Wow.
I think there was things I really enjoyed watching it. I just wish it wasn't so long.
I am. What's the gentleman's name who suggested this?
At C Chupik.
Okay, at C Chupik, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life searching you to kill you.
You hated this, eh?
I hate it.
Really?
And I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna kill that gentleman. That was nice that he suggested.
He's a
it.
very nice man.
I'm sure he's a very nice man.
We interact on Twitter all the time.
But oh man, I'm gonna give this a 1.5.
Really?
Whoa,
I
1.5.
hated it.
Is that your
hated
lowest
it.
score?
No.
So it's
It's pretty close.
It's pretty close.
pretty
though.
close to your lowest
this
score, eh?
This is pretty close to the worst thing I think I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I really disliked it.
What did you hate about it? Like
Everything.
Everything, yeah.
I didn't.
Can I just say one
I couldn't
thing?
see anything. Like I hated it.
One thing that I actually thought was quite good, and this is the one positive thing: the soundtrack wasn't bad. Like for that kind of early '90s movie with that kind of what they were going, like it kept me engaged. It reflected what was happening in the scene. I could read the characters' emotions. A lot of synth stuff. Like I actually didn't mind the soundtrack.
I don't know.
That was the best thing.
I thought the soundtrack. It felt to me like it was about to be put out, and they're like, don't spend any more money on this soundtrack.
Just gonna synthesize.
A lot of it sounded like a xylophone being played to me.
Yeah, there was a lot of fans.
Fans?
There was some lighting through some fans. That was okay.
That's the 0.5.
Yeah, that's like 0.5, and then
Robosaurus gets 1.
Yeah, Robosaurus won, and then like it ended.
And then ended. And that was...
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess that about wraps it up for old Steel Justice here.
Yeah.
In the meantime, if you have any more information about Steel Justice, I'm very curious to find out more of why on earth this got made, but there's very little out there.
There's really almost nothing out there.
It's hard to find information. You can email us at continuumdrag@gmail.com. And of course, on Instagram and Twitter at continuumdrag, we're going to have, unfortunately, some very low-res clips. But
yeah.
I think they'll be short, but they'll probably be very weird to watch.
In 3-second increments, this is not a bad show.
Yeah, you'll be definitely watching the best version of this show. But in the meantime, I guess, Jordan, I'll see you next week. And Ihor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure. And listener, we'll see you next time, or you'll hear us next time. What is it, Jordan? What medium are we in?
24,000 pounds of force. That's what it has. 24,000.
Is that a lot?
Yeah. 4 hydraulic pumps.
Wow.
I know. I can tell you more.
Impressive.
Impressive.
Continuum Drag is recorded in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Rexedler. Produced by Jordan Delic and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Yunes, Adam Wheatner, Jeff Hanley, Jane McRae, and Stephen Packard.